In today's world of market volatility and uncertainty, your retirement plans need to be front and center. With ever-changing tax laws, healthcare worries, and an unpredictable stock market, don't overlook the vulnerability in your retirement planning. Protecting your family and estate will be difficult with shifting policies in Washington. It's more important than ever to keep an eye on retirement.
Hi, and welcome into Eye on Retirement, the weekly show that keeps you in the know about all things retirement. I'm your host, Rick Everett, along with a full complement of panelists to include founding partner and financial advisor Larry Kloefkorn with Market Advisory Group, Joshua Cicora, the lead CPA with Market Tax Services, Bill Vawter leads up the team at Market Medicare Advisors, and with Eidelman law firm, Gerald Eidelman. We've got a lot to cover, so we'll get right to it this week. Larry, you were telling me earlier in the week about a lady who recently retired by the name of Beth, and let's focus on her story this week.
Yes, it's an interesting one, and it just goes to show what can benefit someone when you have a complete team. She recently retired from work, and so she has her retirement nest egg at a big box store, has had it there a couple of years, and the advisor there has become a friend. But after attending one of our educational workshops in the area, she decided that she would accept our offer for a free, no obligation consultation and be able to ask some questions that had come up during the workshop. And she thought it'd be worth the time.
One of the things we do for people who have scheduled a first appointment with Market Advisory Group is we have a list that we provide of helpful things for people to bring along on their first appointment.
Yes, and so that's always helpful, and we go through those items a little bit at a time. She gave me her background and an overview of what's going on currently in her life. And one of the things I want to know during that conversation is what is the most pressing thing that she wants addressed. If we don't address that thing that is the most important or the thing most on her mind, it's going to be hard for her to hear anything else anyway. So I feel as a fiduciary, it's not only my obligation, but my privilege to talk to her about things that'll be in her best interest.
Now, Larry, this analysis is homework that we do as advisors at Market Advisory Group to do before we meet with a client for a second-time chat.
Right. And depending on the makeup of a person's portfolio, we may collaborate with one or more of the other advisors in their specific areas. And in this case, that was certainly a relevant topic. And in fact, before it was all said and done, we needed everybody that's under this roof. And I'm glad that we have those people available. I mean, my goodness, that's something that you just don't find everywhere. So oftentimes we'll talk to our prospective clients about that benefit. What they don't realize is what goes on between meetings is that we're still working on their case.
And in this case, as we'll find out as we further discuss, it involved the whole team, from the tax services to Medicare and estate planning.
Right.
In performing the analysis that you did of her friend-managed portfolio, you analyzed 13 different areas?
Yes, that is a standard approach that I like to use when someone wants an analysis of their current portfolio. So I will go through these 13 areas. Now, in her case, there were 10 areas that needed attention. Each one of these areas, there is 3 categories they fall into. One would be that they're right on track. The other one is attention needed. And then the other one, the third one, is immediate attention. And so there were 10, and out of those 10 that needed attention, 9 needed immediate attention. So this was something that she realized as we were talking about these things, that why would she want to pay for incomplete advice?
Now, in the course of meeting with a prospective client, how often do you find that their current advisors are actually meeting with them in the course of a year?
You know, that's a great question, because I like to kind of flesh that out when I talk to people. And most often what I hear is, whenever I call him and tell him I would like to speak with him, and I'll ask him, I said, really, you have to call him? And one of the reasons I always point that out is because we have a process here to keep people on track where we're meeting with them regularly. They don't have to call us, we're on the schedule. And of course, they're welcome to call us in between if they want. But I find that that's a very important aspect of managing people's money, is that we stay in front of them.
Of course. And in the course of your analysis, what was it that you uncovered as her concerns?
Well, some of the concerns that that were there is that there could be not only some tax implications, but she had quite a bit of risk that was present. And so both of those required some attention, but I can only speak to one. I can speak to the risk and the volatility, but I can't speak to the tax implications, and that's where we need a tax advisor.
Joshua Cicora, lead CPA with Market Tax Services. What fear did you address when you joined Beth and Larry at the conference table?
One of the big things they were concerned about was the tax implications to all these investments that she had going on. You know, when she took the money out, what was going to be the taxes? What were going to be the taxes as this retirement nest egg progressed through the future? You know, different types of accounts have different tax rules in play. And how were these all going to play together as she, you know, took money, as she had this money reinvested, as her, you know, risk tolerance changed, and then, you know, as she took the money out, if she knew she was going to incur taxes, how did she pay for those? You know, how were withholdings set up? How could she be more proactive in dealing with the pain around those taxes before it got to be too much?
You know, most everybody has a tax preparer that they see every year, but there's a huge difference between a tax planner and a tax preparer, and that's what you do at Market Tax Services.
That's right. That's right. I mean, to be honest, I really wear both hats. You know, people come see me in the springtime relatively to talk about tax preparation, putting the forms together, meeting their obligations with the IRS to prepare that return every year. But then when I work with Larry and his clients, we do tax advising, usually later in the year, where we look at your income situation, we look at your retirement nest egg or whatever other assets you have, and see where there's opportunities to make intentional changes to your tax situation, so that when we get back to the preparation stage, you are more satisfied with the outcome than you were previously.
And do you find a lot of people are very much in need of that service, but they come to you after the fact?
Yeah, and it's really regrettable, because when they come to me after the fact, there's really not a lot I can do. Your options after the close of the year are very limited, if you have any options at all. But when I get to meet with people late in the year to look for places to make changes, then we have a lot of options, and we can work together to get you to a better answer. Maybe that's a better answer for this year. Maybe that's a better answer for your tax situation over your remaining years. But you're much more in control and more informed of what's going on.
And I would have to guess, by having taxes prepared at Market Tax Services, you can help diffuse those bombs for the following tax year.
Absolutely. When I get to wear both hats with a client, we get to a much better place, because we're making changes intentionally, and then we're reporting those changes. So then we're really in the driver's seat of their tax situation and how this all plays out for them.
There are a lot of moving parts to an effective retirement plan, and it takes a whole team to look out that all those parts are in working order. from the financial side to tax planning, estate planning, and Medicare advising. Do you have a whole team looking out for you? At Market Advisory Group, we practice a holistic approach to the retirement planning process, and we do it all under one roof for your convenience. If you'd like to set up a complimentary, no-obligation consultation, operators are standing by to take your call right now at 316-252-8707. And be sure and check out our website at ionretirement.com. We'll be back with more of the show right after this.
When people work with Market Advisor Group, they get a feel of sense of family. There's a lot of relationships that are made and going on in this conference room, and we really take a lot of pride in that and a lot of satisfaction in that.
Every client we work with, we make a custom-made plan to fit them and help reach their goals in life.
Another thing that makes us unique is we want to meet regularly with our clients and have reviews.
Market Advisory Group, we have a process, and the process we take people through is first to understand what they have, understand who they are, and then we put together an income plan for them and show them how they can look forward to retirement and not look, though retirement is going to be a stressful time. It needs to be a stress-free time.
A few unique features of working with Market Advisor Group is holistic in-house financial consultants. We've got an in-house CPA, Joshua, an in-house estate planning attorney, Gerald, an in-house Medicare Advisor, Bill. We rely on all of those professionals for, again, additional service within our consultative process, making sure that we've got the advice and the expertise behind the recommendations that we make.
You know, as an advisor, I'm not there to sell them one way or the other. I'm there to educate them, to let them know what their choices are. Then I try to help them make the right choice where they can save money and feel confident in their decision.
Absolutely the best part of my job is getting a stack of paperwork from somebody and they don't know what to do, and then I can turn around and give them back a tax return, but also to be able to explain what they can do next year that will give them a better answer than what they had this year.
When we've got clients that are calling and they need to help out a child or need to help out a grandchild or need to help themselves out and they're in a situation they didn't expect to be in, I really relish the opportunity to help them through that, help them make the educated decisions in somewhat stressful situations, because a lot of folks don't have that type of counsel.
We meet with so many people one-on-one in this office that don't ever end up becoming a customer or doing business with us, and that's okay. But when they leave our office, we know that we've helped them either get some answers to some of the questions they had or get some clarity on maybe their own path.
But one of the things that we hear all the time is, I wish I would have met you guys 10 years ago, because how much further could I be down the road? Well, Johnny Appleseed said, you know, when's the best time to plant a tree? 10 years ago. When's the second best time? Today. And so if we can help people today going forward, that just brings an incredible amount of comfort and excitement for us to come to work every day.
Hi, and welcome back into Ion Retirement. In this episode, we've been visiting about Beth, who is recently retired, and she had been working with one of the big box store advisor firms and had concerns over her investments, their losses, and how to prevent paying more than she needed to in required taxes, as well as not receiving complete advice.
That's right. It is important to have all aspects covered. And in her case, keen investment management and tax planning were not the only things lacking. She had over $1 million that was in a generation skipping trust. Now, when she mentioned that to me, I thought to myself, I've heard of those before. But that was about all I could give her. And so her concerns is that she didn't know exactly, you know, this was kind of thrust on her when her dad died. And she didn't really know, wasn't prepared, you know, in advance. And so she didn't know how to interpret the rules and the provisions of the trust. A lot of it was in legalese. And like I said, I couldn't do her justice and answer any of those questions. Besides, I don't have a license to practice law. So I know someone who does.
Gerald Eidelman of Eidelman Law Firm. What can you tell us about a generation skipping trust?
Well, a generation skipping trust the purpose is to eliminate one round of state taxes. The way it works is you set up a trust with the beneficiary being the second generation. So basically you skip over your children and you leave the funds in trust for your grandchildren. That way, once the children pass away, that money in that trust is not includable in the children's estate and therefore not taxed at that level. And so that's the purpose in particular. Now, a GST trust is an irrevocable trust, meaning once you set it up, the rules are fixed and you can't change it, which is kind of the problem that Beth was having here, because the way the trust was written was incredibly convoluted, and so it made it difficult for her to understand how to manage the trust. Now, people use this to, like I said, to pass one generation of estate taxation, and you can pass as much as $12.9 million in these trusts, and $25 million if you're married. So you can pass a lot of money through this system. Now, the children who don't inherit the actual money in the trust, they get the benefit of using all of the income. Anything that's not principal, they can take out. So you get to pass your assets to the to a second generation without depriving the first generation from the assets. Their assets.
And Larry, Beth did skip a generation, and so she can take appreciation on those assets, correct?
Yes, and so she was wanting to know, how can she do that? Does she have to wait till the end of the year, for instance? Exactly how does the taxation work? Are those tax rates just according to whatever hers are, or are there some others being used? There again, I can't answer that for her, but I know someone in the building who can.
Joshua Cicora, Market Tax Services. Explain the tax implications in this scenario.
Yeah, because there's a lot of tax implications here. Not only are we talking about income taxes, because we talk about income taxes all the time, but in this specific situation, she was her father set up something to try to avoid estate taxes, and so the trust was serving to sidestep that. But then, as the funds were appreciating inside the trust, she had to deal with regular income taxes on those funds. And then that created some problems for her because she had to pull funds out based on the growth that occurred there. She pulled those all out, then those all flowed through her tax return, and that was relatively easy to handle. But if she didn't, then they stayed inside the trust and they would be subject to the trust tax rates, which are aggressive, very aggressive, and nobody wants that to happen except our dear old Uncle Sam. And so then we had to talk about how, how these were all being measured and the timing on when to pull the funds out and the tax implications of trust versus herself as the individual, the beneficiary there. And there was a lot. There's a lot to manage. And I mean, as a tax advisor, thank goodness we had Gerald with us to be able to interpret the trust and then translate that into actionable language that we could all move forward with.
Larry, it was a very complicated process, and we'll come back after the break and wrap it up in a nice tidy bow for our viewers. But for you viewers, do you have an entire team looking out for your best interest? And if not, what critical piece of the puzzle might you be missing? At Market Advisory Group, we practice a holistic approach to retirement planning, from the financial aspects to tax planning, Medicare advising, and estate planning. And we do it all under one roof for your convenience. If you'd like to set up a complimentary, no-obligation consultation, operators are standing by right now to take your call at 316-252-8707. And be sure and check out our website at ionretirement.com. There you can catch past episodes. We'll be back with the final segment of Ion Retirement right after this.
How confident are you in your current financial plan? Do you know with certainty how the recent market volatility will affect your future hopes and dreams? How much are you paying in taxes? And how much are you losing to unnecessary high fees? You didn't work to save this money so that you could spend your time worried in retirement. Now is the time to take charge of your finances so you can feel confident about your future. Call in during the next 30 minutes of today's show only to set up an absolutely complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review that will result in your own customized written plan. This is a $999 value that we're giving away complimentary to the first 10 people who respond. We'll start with a full-blown analysis of what you already have. By running a report to untangle how much you are currently paying in fees, how you're allocated for risk, and what it's costing to work with your current advisor. Next, we'll identify your goals. Where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you want to go, and who do you hope to go there with? Is your current financial plan set up to get you there without mishap? Let's design a roadmap to create a financial plan you can follow with confidence. Get the piece that so many people are missing from their retirement. Find out how having a written plan can make a difference to your retirement dreams. Call now to schedule your complimentary, no obligation, full-blown financial review today.
Hi, and welcome back into Eye on Retirement. We've been talking about a very complicated situation. Of course, none of them are universal, as you would say, but this involved a generation skipping trust. And one of the things you did before they left was ask Eidelman Law Firm to come in and schedule an appointment for them to review these trust documents.
Right.
And then Beth also revealed that her husband and her have no estate plan or even powers of attorney in place. So you gave her examples of how very important that is.
Yes, it is vital that everyone have that. I have a couple of occasions that happened, situations that happened last year where someone had set up POAs because Gerald had recommended they do. And then they had a medical emergency, and those POAs had to step in. So it's vitally important.
And Larry, you were telling me that Beth's husband asked a question that many people ask of a financial advisor.
Yes, get this question a lot. He is currently 64, and he's wondering, when does he need to sign up for Medicare?
And Bill Vawter with Market Medicare Advisors. This is a common question that happens for the financial advisors. What was your role in helping out Beth and her husband?
Well, in this particular situation, one of them was 64, the other one is not, and so you have to plan on the health insurance that for that person that's remaining underneath Medicare. You qualify for Medicare at age 65. Now, if you're continuing to be covered by group insurance, then I always encourage people to weigh that out. Weigh out the cost and the benefit of the group insurance against the cost and the benefit of Medicare. Some people, their employer covers most of the cost and maybe the coverage is really good, and sometimes that's hard to beat. On the other hand, there's a lot of groups out here that are not as strong as what Medicare is, and the premium is much higher than what Medicare is. And so, you know, we have to take a look at that whole picture. I mean, I always tell people I'd like to earn their business when I can justify it, but you can't always justify it, so you tell them to stay where they're at. But as far as planning for Medicare, when you reach 64, I sometimes have people come in a year in advance. I think that's a little bit early because Medicare is a fluid situation. It changes. I mean, there's some tweaks and adjustments that go on from year to year with different parts of Medicare, and sometimes coming in a little too early, I can't give them the exact advice that I would like to give them had they waited a few more months down the road. But there's a lot to know about Medicare. I try to walk them through the traditional version first, explain what their options and choices are, and then take them through the newer version of Medicare, Medicare Advantage. It's not exactly new. It's been around a long time now, but, you know, those are some of the things we do.
What's the longest a person can wait before they go on Medicare? I mean, can they stay on their employer's insurance as long as they're working and there's no penalty for not going on Medicare?
That would be right, yeah. It has to meet Medicare's requirements, and the term is credible coverage. So long as the health insurance part of it and the prescription drug part of it meets that requirement, yes, they can stay on their group insurance. Now, if they're working for an employer that is 20 employees or less, then no, they're generally expected to move over to Medicare. And most employers that are in that situation are more than happy to help them move over and help them cover their costs to be on Medicare, because that's cheaper for the employer to cover that than it is to keep them on their group insurance. But yeah, as long as they have group insurance, they don't have to go on to Medicare.
If a person is out there watching the show right now and they're currently on Medicare and unhappy with what their supplement is that something that can be changed at any time throughout the course of the year?
Yes, Medicare supplements can be changed any day of the week, any time of the year. Now, you do have to be, I like to say, halfway healthy or reasonably healthy in order to do that, because every company is going to underwrite you. They're going to ask you 15 to 20 health questions that you need to be able to say no to, but and as long as you can, you can change supplements any time. And I do encourage people to look into that about every 5 or 6 years.
Larry, this was a very complicated scenario, and a generation skipping trust isn't something that we see often. Had you seen one before come through your office?
Yes, I have. I tell you, the first time was way back when we didn't have Eidelman Law Firm as part of this. But, you know, not everyone has a situation that's alike, but it goes to show that with a complete team, we can cover the usual and the unusual.
Very good. And no two situations are alike. I've heard you say before that retirement plans are like a thumbprint or a snowflake, because although people might think that they're all the same, they're definitely not.
That's true. They're not. And it's so important to be able to do custom-made plans that fit people's needs.
Very good. Do you have an entire team looking out for your best interest? And if not, what critical piece of the puzzle might you be missing that could cost you or even your heirs money down the road? At Market Advisory Group, we practice the holistic approach to retirement, from the financial aspects to estate planning, tax advising, and Medicare advising as well, and we do it all under one roof for your convenience. Operators are standing by right now to take your call for a complimentary, no-obligation consultation at 316-252-8707, and check out our website at ionretirement.com. That's all the time we have this week. I'm Rick Everett, and here to remind you that we're here to keep an eye on retirement.
This broadcast is intended for informational and educational purposes only. The views, statements, and opinions expressed herein are those of the individual speakers and not necessarily those of foundations and its affiliates. The information contained herein does not constitute an offer to sell any securities or represent an express or implied opinion or endorsement of any specific investment opportunity, offering, or issuer. Any discussion of performance or returns is not indicative of future results. Each individual investor situation is different, and any ideas provided may not be appropriate for your particular circumstances. Foundations only transacts business in the states where it is registered or is excluded or exempt from registration requirements. Registration as an investment advisor is not an endorsement of the firm by security regulators and does not mean the advisor has achieved a specific level of skill or ability. Legal services are offered by Eidelman Law Firm. Tax services offered by Market Tax Services. Market Advisory Group does not provide legal or tax advice. Investment advisory services are offered through Foundations Investment Advisors, LLC, an SEC registered investment advisor.